My name's Callum, and I'm from Newcastle. I used to fight, boxed for years, chasing dreams of glory in smoky gyms and bloody rings. But like most working-class lads trying to punch their way out, I needed a job that paid the bills between bouts. That's how I ended up in private security. At first, I thought it would be simple door work. Keep drunks in line, throw the occasional brawler out of a club. But the firm I joined handled all sorts of special clients. Before long, I was guarding everything from government buildings to threatened schools, and once, a church that had been petrol-bombed for sheltering refugees. Weird stuff. Dangerous stuff. But nothing came close to the funeral job. It was October 1994. Cold, gray, wet. Our boss pulled a few of us aside and gave us the brief. We were to secure a private wake at a countryside estate just outside Durham. Sounded straightforward, until he said the name, the Colgrave family. You didn't say that name out loud back then unless you wanted trouble. The Colgraves ran the Northeast, drugs, extortion, protection rackets. Their patriarch, Eddie Colgrave, had just died of a heart attack, and the family expected rivals might try to crash the funeral. Not to mourn. To send a message. We arrived early to the Colgrave estate. Massive, isolated. Iron gates, high hedges, sprawling grounds with statues and fountains. The kind of place where you could scream for help all day and no one would hear you. A maid gave us the tour, pointed out where mourners would gather, and where we'd be expected to keep a presence. We were told, no firearms. But a few of us, myself included, carried blades tucked discreetly into our boots. Just in case. Around noon, the black cars began rolling in. Mercedes. Bentleys. SUVs with tinted glass. Out stepped men in tailored black suits, women in veils and fur coats. Everyone looked like royalty, but with body counts behind their names. You could smell the money. And the danger. For a while, everything ran smooth. There were toasts, tears, whispered prayers. Whiskey and wine flowed. But by mid-afternoon, the grief gave way to celebration. Laughter. Music. The kind of false comfort that comes when people try to convince themselves they're not next. I was stationed near the front garden with another guard when we got the call over the radio. Back fence. There's movement. A pause. Then static. Then a voice yelling, "Shit, they're coming through." We sprinted through the side path around the house, and that's when we saw them. At least a dozen men, all dressed in black, faces covered. One had already smashed through the back fence with a sledgehammer. They poured into the garden like wolves. Bats. Chains. Crowbars. Not here to mourn. They were here to slaughter. We slammed the back doors shut, shouted warnings. Inside, guests screamed and scattered. Someone tried to hold the rear kitchen door, then it shattered inward. Masked men stormed in, swinging, punching, stomping anything that moved. The Colgrave family didn't go down easy. A few of their sons fought back, fists flying, teeth gritted. One attacker took a champagne bottle to the face and collapsed. But most of the Colgrave men were drunk, sloppy. Slow. The gang cut through them like butcher's knives. We tried to herd the women and children upstairs, lock the hallway, create a defensive position at the top of the stairs. But the house was huge. Too many ways in. Too many places to fall. And then something happened that still plays in my head when I try to sleep. Mrs. Colgrave, Eddie's widow, hair white as ash, opened a tall wooden cabinet in the master bedroom. Inside weren't coats or linen. There were weapons. Not guns. But old, exotic weapons. A katana. 2 Zulu spears. And what looked like a 17th century English broadsword, rusted but still sharp. We handed them out. I got one of the spears. Never held anything like it, but it felt heavy, solid, real. We took positions at the top of the staircase. A few of the attackers were making their way up, slow, deliberate. I pointed the spear at the closest one and shouted, "You want up here, you're gonna have to crawl over your own guts." He hesitated. Just a second. But that second saved us. Behind us, the women, mothers, sisters, aunts, began launching anything they could down the stairs. Heels. Bottles. Ornamental vases. Even an old iron clothes iron. One hit a masked man square in the temple. He dropped like a puppet with its strings cut. The others started to retreat. Not all at once. But you could see it in their body language. The panic. The realization, this wasn't going to be easy. They started pulling back. Dragging their injured. Smashing what they could on the way out, TVs, mirrors, lamps. But they ran. And we held the line. When it was over, the silence was unbearable. The aftermath was worse than the fight. Blood soaked the carpets. Broken glass crunched beneath every step. One of the Colgrave lads had a shattered jaw and 2 missing fingers. Another had been stabbed in the shoulder, deep. One of the attackers, still breathing, lay convulsing in the hall. Skull cracked open like a melon. No one moved to help him. Eventually, the police arrived. You'd think a family like the Colgraves would stonewall the cops. But not this time. They wanted names. Revenge. Justice, their kind of justice. One of the attackers, the one still alive, was taken to hospital under guard. He regained consciousness long enough to admit everything, told the doctors who had planned the hit. Word is, he was dead within the week. Never made it to trial. Over the next year, one by one, the rest of the gang started disappearing. Car crashes. Fires. Drownings. A few were never found at all. Some of those names I recognized. Young lads. Some no older than me. I never forgot. I left the job not long after that. Took work in department store security. Less glam. Less pay. But no sledgehammers. No samurai swords. No dead men in my dreams. I never won a boxing title. Never got the glory I once chased. But I got something better. Peace. And in my line of work, that's the only prize that matters. On the night of May 3, 2014, a 26-year-old single mother named Emily Carter was working the late shift at the Ridgeway Fuel Mart, a quiet, roadside gas station nestled along Brookhaven Road in the peaceful town of Crestfield, Oregon. Emily was well known in the community for her gentle demeanor and dedication to her job. She was working alone that night, a common practice in this low-crime area, just a few minutes from the Crestfield Police Department. No one expected anything to go wrong. Just before midnight, a familiar local customer pulled into the station. After parking his car, he entered the store to buy snacks. But the counter was empty. At first, he figured Emily was on a quick bathroom break, so he waited. But when 5 minutes passed and the eerie silence persisted, concern crept in. Curious and worried, he stepped behind the counter to check the back. There, he found Emily's purse, her jacket, and cell phone, but no sign of her. He called out, searched the aisles, even peeked into the restroom. Nothing. Fearing something had gone terribly wrong, he called the police. Minutes later, a Crestfield officer arrived and began his inspection. There were no signs of forced entry or struggle. The cash register was untouched, every dollar in place. The store's safe was sealed. Yet Emily was gone. Emily Carter wasn't just an employee. She was a devoted mother to her 4-year-old daughter, Lily, and engaged to her high school sweetheart, Ethan Granger. She was beloved in Crestfield, known for her sweet nature and dreams of becoming a nurse. Her disappearance shattered the town. Emily's mother, Martha Carter, spoke to local reporters in tears. She would never leave Lily. I know she's out there waiting for us to find her. I just want my baby back. Ethan, her fiancé, spoke at a candlelight vigil. I miss her every second. Lily misses her. We're not giving up. She didn't just vanish. But the investigation quickly hit a wall. The gas station, shockingly, had no interior security cameras. When asked why, the owner shrugged. We didn't think we needed them. It was an oversight that would haunt the case. Police brought in tracking dogs. Emily's scent was traced to the back of the store, then vanished, like she'd been plucked off the earth. A small bloodstain was found near the dumpster behind the station. DNA confirmed it belonged to Emily. With no suspects, no footage, and no solid leads, the search stretched on for months. Volunteers scoured nearby woods, fields, and lakes. Flyers papered the town. Her face appeared on the evening news. But she never turned up. Then, nearly 2 years later, on April 10, 2016, in a nearby town called Marlow Ridge, a 17-year-old girl narrowly escaped being abducted. She described a silver van, a middle-aged man who tried to lure her in. Thanks to her quick thinking and a detailed description, police arrested a local resident, Daniel Royce. Royce, 47, worked in a local factory. He had no criminal history. But what police found in his van and home would turn the investigation on its head. In the back of the van, handcuffs, duct tape, restraints, zip ties, gloves, sedatives. Royce claimed they were personal items for recreational use. But on his laptop, police discovered a disturbing folder labeled Gems. Inside were subfolders named with women's initials. One was labeled DC. Inside, dozens of images of Emily Carter, pulled from her social media, alongside folders of graphic torture content, abduction videos, and plans. The date the DC folder was created? May 3, 2014. 1 year after Emily's disappearance, another woman, 32-year-old Rachel Brinley, had been found dead near Forest Line Trail, shot in the back of the head 3 times. At the time, it was thought to be a hit and run, but now, with Royce in custody, everything changed. Her folder was labeled RB. A neighbor's security footage showed Royce's van near the Ridgeway Fuel Mart on the night Emily vanished. A police sketch drawn from a sighting that night looked eerily like him. Witnesses confirmed he was a regular customer, often making Emily visibly uncomfortable. In September 2016, Daniel Royce was charged with Emily Carter's kidnapping and murder. Prosecutors believed he abducted her from the station, took her to a remote cabin he'd inherited from a deceased relative, and committed unspeakable acts before killing her with a .357 revolver found in his van. But there was a major complication: Emily's body had never been found. This was a no-body case, one of the hardest types to prosecute. But Royce's cousin, David Royce, a former security guard, came forward. He admitted Daniel had shown him Emily's body in the basement freezer, then asked for his help disposing of it. David helped bury her in a wooded area. He led police to several potential sites. But none yielded remains. Investigators believe Daniel, fearing betrayal, moved the body. To this day, her final resting place remains unknown. In court, Royce's defense argued that there was no physical evidence directly linking him to Emily's murder. No DNA, no remains. But the sheer mountain of circumstantial evidence overwhelmed the jury. In May 2018, Daniel Royce was convicted of first-degree murder and kidnapping. He was already serving a life sentence for Rachel Brinley's murder. The news brought bittersweet relief to Emily's family. Her daughter Lily, now 8, is being raised by Ethan and her grandmother. The town of Crestfield changed after that. No longer the sleepy hamlet it once was, it passed the Emily Carter Law, requiring 24-hour surveillance in all convenience stores and gas stations, panic buttons, and a minimum of 2 night shift employees. Each year, they hold a vigil in her memory. The search for her remains continues. Volunteers, friends, and family refuse to give up. Daniel Royce has never expressed remorse. He refuses to speak about where he moved Emily's body. Maybe someday he will. Until then, her memory lives on, a chilling reminder of how monsters can lurk in the most unsuspecting places. I spent just under a decade in the elite Falcon Regiment, an airborne infantry unit known for precision, discipline, and pushing its soldiers to the brink. But a back injury during a jump exercise cut my military career short. At the time, I was devastated. I'd trained my entire adult life for the regiment. Without it, I felt stripped of my identity. But once the dust settled, I realized the doors it had opened for me. I'd received job offers from a few big-name private security contractors almost instantly. Their medical exams were a joke compared to the military's. I could have been making bank in war zones again within a month. Then I talked to an old mate who'd moved to the States. He was training actors how to clear rooms and fire like they'd been in combat. Long hours, great money, he said. Sounded good, but then another call came through, from someone who changed everything. He was an ex-Falcon too, now working in close personal protection. The high-end bodyguard game. Based in London, but he was traveling the world guarding celebrities. Maldives, Dubai, Singapore, he'd been to them all in just over a year. It wasn't exactly a war zone, but it scratched the same itch: planning, precision, presence. And it paid well. I applied. Within weeks, I was on my first assignment. It felt natural. I was hooked. Most days weren't adrenaline-fueled action flicks. They were more, keep teenage fans from fainting on the sidewalk, than dodging sniper fire. But it was good work. Easy, until it wasn't. There was one job that changed everything. A high-profile singer, huge international tour. We were briefed before every city: local risks, protest potential, venue logistics. But the real wild cards? The superfans. 99% were harmless. Cringy, awkward, sure. But harmless. Then there was the other 1%. During our security briefing in Ravenport, the head of ops clicked to the final slide, a man named Declan Ross. I remember that name like it was carved into stone. Declan the Devoted, they called him. But it wasn't devotion. It was delusion. The PowerPoint was surreal. Bright green mohawk, spiderweb tattoos on his cheeks, pages of rants he'd written online. He believed the singer we were guarding was his wife. And that her real-life relationship with another celebrity was adultery. He wanted to punish her for it. His blogs were graphic. Disturbing. Worse than anything I'd read in combat intel. But it was the photos that made my stomach turn. Weapons laid out on his bed like some DIY horror film prop department. Knives, steel-knuckled gloves, even a homemade stun gun. He posted selfies in a tactical outfit. Full black. Face covered. Like a discount ninja. We knew his hometown. Knew our client was about to perform there. And we had reason to believe he had the venue blueprints. That made everything harder. When threats hit a certain level in the UK, we loop in local law enforcement. We'd done it before. Usually they scare the would-be stalker enough to keep them at home. Sometimes they arrest them outright. But when the police visited Declan's flat, he was gone. Neighbor said he'd left early that morning. Dressed in black. With a big duffel bag. Game on. We went into overdrive. Locked down the venue, swept every corner. Checked behind bins, rooftops, tunnels. Nothing. The concert happened without a hitch. We got the client in and out. The real threat came later. I volunteered for the overnight shift on the hotel floor. The singer and her entourage were in a secure VIP corridor. 2 guards at either end. 1 patrolling. Around 2:30 a.m., our outside man radioed in. A car was parked across from the hotel in a dark lot. Empty looking. But weird. Bad vibe, he said. He checked it. No plates. Back seat had a lumpy blanket. He thought someone might be hiding under it. While we talked it through, I saw the lift doors open. A hotel staff member stepped out with a laundry trolley. Mid-20s, clean cut. Seemed nervous, but that wasn't unusual around VIPs. I waved him on. My mind was still on the car. Then I noticed something. His keycard wasn't working. Not once, not twice, he was cycling through 3 different cards. None worked. He was sweating. Fidgeting. I asked if he needed help. Just to get a better look. When he turned, my blood went cold. It was Declan. Gone was the green mohawk. His piercings were missing. Hair buzzed down like a boot camp recruit. But the eyes? The same manic, too wide stare I'd seen in the photos. And the second I realized it, he lunged for the trolley. He yanked out a zombie knife. Huge, curved, serrated. Illegal as hell. But effective. We can't carry weapons in our line of work. Not even pepper spray. But I had a legal workaround, dye spray. Non-toxic, legal, and made to blind. I hit him full in the face. Orange foam. Instant confusion. He howled. Swung wildly. One slash landed on my chest, glanced off the stab vest. Another cut into my forehead. Blood in my eyes. I staggered back and hit the silent alarm. Declan flailed, swinging at ghosts. My colleague rounded the corner just in time. He launched a potted plant like a missile. Declan stumbled, and we tackled him together. It took 3 of us to restrain him. Hotel security swarmed in. Police followed. Declan was arrested, dragged off kicking and screaming. He never said a word afterward. Not to the police. Not to a judge. Never attended his trial. Nothing. We still don't know how he got a staff uniform. Or the keycards. But he got close. So damn close. The uniform, the disguise, the hair, the silence. It was like something out of a psychological horror film. Only it was real. Too real. And that night taught me something. One unarmed lunatic with a plan is sometimes more dangerous than a dozen with guns and no direction. Because obsession doesn't sleep. It studies. It learns. And it almost got past me. We were the elite, trained to hunt terrorists in the world's most dangerous war zones. But nothing prepared us for what we found that day in Darak. This wasn't warfare, it was something much darker. And we were part of it before we even realized. Back in the late 90s, I was just an 18-year-old farm kid from a little town in northern Alberta called Fairview. I wasn't keen on a life driving logging trucks or shoveling grain, so I did what a lot of aimless young guys do. I joined the army. Enlistment wasn't impossible, but it wasn't exactly easy either. I walked into a recruitment center in Calgary, passed their fitness tests, gave them the usual spiel about wanting to serve my country, when really, I just wanted out. 2 years later, I was a private with the Royal Western Rangers, stationed out of Saskatoon. It was early fall, and I was tucking into a late breakfast after morning PT when someone shouted to crank the volume on the mess hall TV. On screen, smoke billowed from one of the twin towers. Then we watched in horror as the second plane hit. The mess fell into stunned silence, forks suspended midair. We all knew, even before the briefing, that life was about to change. War was coming, and it wasn't going to be peacekeeping with blue helmets and supply trucks. It was going to be violent, fast, and personal. By 2002, I had my sights on Shadow Unit 12, our version of Tier 1. Real covert ops, not just patrols. Selection was brutal. A month in the freezing backwoods outside Thunder Bay. No sleep, endless ruck marches, psychological tests that made you question your own sanity. Guys tougher than me broke. I nearly did, too. But I stuck it out, passed, and after another year of advanced training in urban warfare, explosives, halo jumping, I earned the patch. My first deployment to Zoran province, Afghanistan came in 2003. We landed in a dusty, sweltering airfield surrounded by mountains that looked older than time. Our base, Camp Orion, was a maze of sandbags, HESCO barriers, and the constant buzz of diesel generators. Heat hit 40 degrees easy, and the dust. It got into your lungs, your rifle, and every crack of your body. Afghanistan was a land of paradoxes. Majestic and scarred. Locals were proud, cautious, and fiercely loyal to their clans. Some welcomed us with flatbread and tea. Others watched us with the kind of eyes that made you check your six. Shadow Unit 12 wasn't there to make friends. Our job was direct action, raids, captures, eliminations. We hunted bomb makers, couriers, and foreign fighters. We worked closely with American units like DevGru and ODA teams, trading intel and hitting targets together. Most ops went smooth, clinical. But not all. Late 2003, we got orders to link up with a supposed CIA team called Falcon Element 7. They claimed they had eyes on a bomb maker hiding in the village of Darak. Sounded like a standard joint op. We'd done dozens. But when we met them outside the village pre-dawn, things were off. Instead of sleek operators, we found 3 Americans and about 15 local fighters in scavenged gear, smelling of hash and sweat. The leader, a guy calling himself Cole, strutted around in knockoff fatigues and shades, barking fake military jargon like he'd memorized it from an action movie. We exchanged skeptical glances but pushed forward. Orders were orders. But everything about the operation screamed wrong. No coordinated sweeps. Cole screamed at villagers, his men tore through homes, flipped over cooking pots, and terrorized families. We'd been trained to de-escalate. These guys were doing the opposite. Then it got worse. Cole's men started dragging people into the streets. I heard screams from a house 2 doors down. I ran over and found 2 Americans beating a shopkeeper, accusing him of being Al-Qaeda. He didn't even understand English. Cole egged them on, grinning like a game show host. I pulled my sergeant aside. "This is a damn circus," I said. He nodded, jaw clenched tight. We were guests in their op, but our conscience was screaming. We kept moving, hoping it would wrap up quickly. It didn't. Toward the end, a couple of Falcon's Afghan fighters approached us, smiling. One unwrapped a rag bundle. Inside were severed fingers, dried and blackened. "Enemy," one said. I felt bile rise in my throat. Cole chuckled. "Their war, not ours," he said. Back at Orion, my sergeant lost it. He reported everything up the chain. But when command tried to verify Falcon Element 7, no one had ever heard of them. Not CIA, not DIA, not JSOC. It was like they didn't exist. Over the next few months, we heard whispers. Rumors about Cole running rogue ops, torturing detainees, trading fake intel for cash. Then, in summer 2004, Afghan National Police raided a house in Kabul. It was Cole's. Inside, they found horror, cages, blood-stained chains, and prisoners barely clinging to life. 8 men, all civilians. Some hanging upside down, others burned or starved. It was a private torture prison. A hellhole. Cole's real name was Jonathan Keene. One of his goons was an ex-paratrooper. The other? A freelance war reporter turned sadist. They'd kidnapped random civilians, tortured confessions out of them, and sold them to the highest bidder. Their house of horrors ran for nearly 2 years. Keene claimed he worked for U.S. intelligence. It was a lie. The Pentagon disavowed him. He stood trial in Kabul and got 10 years, but somehow got pardoned in 2007. Last I heard, he died in Mexico of some disease, probably hiding from the ghosts of what he did. And me? I never forgot that raid. Those body parts. The sick grin on Cole's face. We were there for 2 hours, but it left a scar I still carry. We thought we were doing good. Instead, we became part of someone else's nightmare. Some nights, I still see those villagers. Still wonder if that old shopkeeper ever made it home. If there's justice in the next life, I hope Keen finds out what it feels like to beg for mercy and get none.